This is a story about a football coach, but it's not about football.
Having people be able to watch a game on a Friday night, it was just that sense of normalcy.
It's a story about a sprawling community summed up in 1 acre of grass.
Without Ed's leadership, that our recovery psychologically wouldn't happen.
It's about a town that was torn apart.
Butler County 911.
Hey, somebody just shot Coach Thomas.
And found a way to rebuild.
Well, once again, the Republicans are seeking another anti-Romney, anybody but Romney. They've now settled on a wise old uncle who says nice things about all of them.
Well, he's not there yet, but he's climbing in the polls, right? Newt Gingrich was once considered and also ran. David Brody has this look at what's behind his rise among Republicans.
It is now official. Newt Gingrich's bravado is becoming a hit with Republican primary voters.
The first executive order will eliminate, as of that minute, every White House czar, period.
Perhaps his biggest secret is that Gingrich doesn't target his opponents. Instead, he sets his sights on conservative favorites, the president and the media.
This is the richest country in the history of the world because corporations succeed in creating both profits and jobs, and it's sad that the news media doesn't report accurately how the economy works.
Voters are discovering that his brain may not just be an encyclopedia, but is also full of ideas they can support. His 21st century contract lays out how he would repeal Obamacare, balance the budget, and includes executive orders that he would sign as president.
It seemed like you're the realist up there. You're just someone that's going to just say what needs to be said.
Well, maybe I'm a realistic idealist. I mean, what I'm describing, nobody in Washington would tell you what I'm describing is realistic. None of this stuff's new. And I participated with Reagan, and then I participated as Speaker of the House. I have a pretty good sense of how real this is and how much it could be done.
The Gingrich climb has been an impressive turnaround. In August, he averaged around 4% in the polls. 3 months later, that average now is at 13%. A new CNN poll puts Gingrich into second, just behind Mitt Romney.
Newt Gingrich is really positioning himself pretty well here to be the guy that picks up if Herman Cain, and the expectation is when Herman Cain starts to falter, right. Here he is standing there as, remember, I was the guy who's always been there. I'm the person who brings all of this, the experience, the knowledge, the know-how.
Whether Gingrich can edge out the better-funded Romney remains to be seen, but he's banking on voters seeing him as the candidate most able to intellectually and aggressively take on Obama.
One of the Republican weaknesses has been that we rely too much on consultants and too much on talking points, and we don't rely enough on actually knowing things. And I think that if you're going to lead the country and change history, you had better know a heck of a lot before you start, because there's not much time for learning on the job. And as Obama's proven, youth and inexperience are interesting, but they can also be a disaster.
The former speaker's next opportunity to make the most of what he knows comes this weekend at an evangelical faith forum in Iowa, where the field remains wide open and ready for harvest. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Well, Newt was here at our Clash of the Titans a year or so ago, and he got a standing ovation when he got through his part. People just loved what he had to say, and he's resonating. Doesn't matter he's got a $500,000 tab at Tiffany's and that he's got is on his third wife. This seems that people have forgotten that right now. But he's been brilliant in these debates. But the big thing he's done is stay away from controversy about each other. He has not attacked his fellow Republicans. And they just don't seem to get it. Michelle Bachmann has imploded, and it looks like Perry has done the same thing. They're just the attack dogs, and the people don't want that. They want love, they want harmony, and they want to beat Obama.
And they want the issues addressed, and he has stayed on message with all of that.
Well, he's encyclopedic, but when I was running for president some time ago, he used to send me a little audio clips and tell me some of the points that were significant. And so he's a thinker, smart man, and a good guy. Well, we'll see. Poor old Mitt has worked so hard and spent so much money, and he's still the top runner. But we'll see. It keeps going up and down, but. I'm afraid those allegations against Herman Cain, truth or false, have hurt him badly. Well, you can always keep up with the latest in the presidential race by logging on to the Brody File on CBNNews.com. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Pat, House and Senate negotiators agree on a $182 billion spending bill. That measure includes stopgap spending legislation that will keep the government running until December 16th, and it prevents a partial government shutdown this weekend. The bill provides funding to the Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Justice, Transportation, and Housing and Urban Development. But it includes cuts to NASA and community development programs. Lawmakers have a Friday deadline to vote on the bill. And on tomorrow's 700 Club, we will talk to South Carolina Republican Senator Jim DeMint about whether or not Washington's spending cuts have really been effective. Republicans are criticizing President Obama for saying the U.S. is getting lazy about attracting foreign investment. They say the president is blaming business for his administration's failures. Here's what the president said during a meeting with American CEOs at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit this past weekend.
We've been a little bit lazy, I think, over the last couple of decades. We've kind of taken for granted, well, people will want to come here, and we aren't out there hungry selling America and trying to attract new businesses into America.
In September, the president said America is a great, great country that had gotten a little soft and didn't have that same competitive edge that we needed over the last couple of decades. Pat, the question is why?
Well, he's taken on the job of chief scold. He scolds America. You know, the rich are taking advantage of us. You know, we're lazy. You know, we have gods and guns and that kind of stuff. The truth is, Lee, if I were starting and to take a company public, and I've contemplated from time to time, I would never in a million years want to go public in America. No way. Under Sarbanes-Oxley, it's killing. It's a killer. So you'd go to Toronto, you'd go to London, you'd go to Hong Kong, you'd go to someplace besides America to take a company public because our laws are too prohibitive. In terms of taxes, I think we're the second highest corporate tax jurisdiction in the world, and it looks like people are not willing to take it down. And then we've got this debacle having to do with Boeing wanting to set up a plant in South Carolina, and the Obama directed National Labor, NLRB, the Labor Board, was saying, no, you can't move from Washington State to South Carolina because they're a right-to-work state. What foreign country would want to a foreign business would want to come in and do business under those circumstances? And then we've got the pipeline problem. Here, the TransCanada wants to build a pipeline, and, you know, we've got environmentalists having a, quote, study of that ad nauseum. I don't know why you call somebody lazy when you're putting up so many obstacles that these people can't get the job done. People can't hire and can't operate businesses because of the myriad regulations that are in place. We have a nightmare of regulations, and those bureaucrats aren't stopping. They just love to turn out regulations to control people because that's the way the so-called progressives think. They want to control you because they think they know more than you do and you aren't capable of making independent decisions. So that's what we've got. But the chief scold gets on APEC forum and says America's lazy. That's like Jimmy Carter talking about, you know, we have a malaise. It wasn't a malaise. Dirksen said we're not sick, we're not even indisposed, we're just badly managed. Lee?
New York is the latest city to evict Occupy Wall Street protesters. Hundreds of police cleared Zuccotti Park of demonstrators early this morning. Many left peacefully. At least 70 people, though, were arrested. The eviction comes as concerns over health and safety at the park grow. Protesters have been camped there for nearly 2 months. Police say they will be able to return after sanitation workers have cleaned the park, but they will not be allowed to bring sleeping bags, tarps, and tents. But we understand that lawyers for the protesters are challenging that order in court. The U.S. Supreme Court is likely to rule on President Obama's health care law during the election year. Conservatives argue that the law is unconstitutional. They say the government cannot require people to buy health insurance. The court has set aside 5.5 hours for arguments. Normally, it allows only 1 hour split between the two sides. For more on this important story, let's go back over to Pat.
Thanks, Lee. Well, we have with us a good friend and a key constitutional lawyer, Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice. Jay, are you happy that the Supremes have taken jurisdiction?
I am. I'm happy that it's going to finally be adjudicated where it should have been probably a year ago, and that's at the Supreme Court of the United States. Pat, they've taken every issue that has been raised. You know, we're representing 105 members of the United States Congress. I think it's actually up to 106 now. And also, there's been a series of challenges in Florida. We've filed in that case. We brought a case in the District of Columbia that is now on its way to the Supreme Court. It will be held with this case. There's cases coming out of the Fourth Circuit. But it's not an ideological split as normal. For instance, Pat, in the 11th Circuit case, we carried the day because a Clinton appointee came with us and took the position that we were advocating. Yet the 6th Circuit and the District of Columbia Courts of Appeals went against the position we were advocating, and Republican nominees signed on. So there's a lot of issues at play here. It's not going to strictly be ideological lines as normal.
Jay, they've got several things. One, of course, is the issue of severability. If they take that individual mandate, does that kill the whole law? Usually, there was nothing in that bill that says it's severable, so you'd think that was the linchpin and it would take the whole law down, but that's the key. They also understand there's an issue of standing, whether the people making these complaints have standing to come in on a constitutional issue like this. Are there any other issues they'll be dealing with?
Well, the biggest one is going to be, of course, the individual mandate, which is not a surprise. That was the requirement that you must buy this insurance or face these penalties imposed by the Internal Revenue Service. But the second thing, Pat, is the Anti-Injunction Act, which goes into your first point about standing, and that is are these cases ready for adjudication because the bill has not yet gone into effect? It's imposed through the tax code, and there is an Anti-Injunction Act. And that could be a very close issue in this case. So it is conceivable that after 5.5 hours of oral argument, hundreds of pages of briefs that are going to be filed in this case, that the court simply says, challenge interesting, but we're not going to look at it till 2015 after this law is really in effect. So there's a significant hurdle here that has to be hopped over. But the fact that they gave 5.5 hours for oral argument over a 2-day period, I think is significant. I think that speaks definitely to the seriousness of this case, but predicting the outcome of this one, very difficult. I will say this, regardless of how it goes, if the court decides to strike it as unconstitutional, that is a victory. If the court decides to leave it in place and says it is constitutional, you're talking about probably the most significant election issue of 2012, because it would take a Republican House, Senate, and White House to get rid of that legislation.
What about Justice Kagan? She was a Solicitor General and actually defending this law. Shouldn't she recuse herself?
You know, recusal, Pat, is completely up to the individual justice. There's been a move to have her recuse herself. There's been a move to have Justice Thomas recuse himself. My real consensus here is neither will be removed. She has stated that she was not substantively involved in the litigation. There is that email that came out where she was glad it passed. But that is really their call, and there's absolutely no indication that either of the justices will, in fact, recuse themselves. In fact, you would have probably seen that in the order, because oftentimes when certiorari is granted, that is when the court decides to hear the case, they'll say, you know, such and such justice decided not to participate in the determination whether to take the case. That was not noted here. So my suspicion is we will have 9 justices determining this. The arguments will be in March. The decision will be in June, and an election in November. And, Pat, you know the election issue is going to play very, very significantly.
Paul Clement, I suppose, will be arguing for the people who are opposing the law. Are you going to be involved in any of the oral arguments?
We're going to be helping Paul. We're not going to be, he's representing Florida here. The cases that we've had in chief are at the, just coming out of the Court of Appeal stages. So those will be held at the Supreme Court. Paul Clement will be making the primary argument on behalf of the states. The Solicitor General for the United States will be doing the argument on behalf of the United States. We will be filing actually briefs on behalf of most of the Republican leadership. I think all of the Republican leadership at this point, or certainly most of it, and about 106 members of the United States Congress. So we're going to be filing a very significant brief. The argument in chief will be made by Paul Clement, who, as you know, has been down to Regent before, former Solicitor General, a very good friend of ours, and will do a fantastic job. And the Solicitor General's office will do a job. This is going to be a case to watch for oral argument skills. But at the end of the day, a case like this, the briefing, oral arguments are great. They're always important. It's the fun part of the case. But you usually win or lose these on the brief. So the work is starting, literally, Pat, started yesterday at 10:01 when the court said certiorari is granted. And everybody's to work here. It's going to be a lot of briefs. We'll be filing a number of briefs on a whole lot of issues because the court has taken everything. Every issue that's been raised has been accepted.
Well, Jay, thank you so much, and best wishes on this case. And ladies and
Thanks,
gentlemen, it will obviously be a big deal because it's coming out just before the election. So if it stays in place, then the Republican will run against Obamacare, or whatever it's called, Obamacare. If it's put down, then Obama will be running against the arbitrary dictates of the Supreme Court, and the people's will were frustrated or something. So anyhow, it's going to be, it'll throw politics into a cauldron coming up this fall. Terry?
Thought we were there already.
Yeah, it'll get worse.
Well, coming up, they're 3 miles away and yet worlds apart. Hear how one man is bridging that divide. That's next. And then later, we want to take your questions from our live chat room. So if you'd like to participate, log on to CBN.com and send yours in right now.
Still ahead.
Without Ed's leadership, that our recovery psychologically wouldn't happen.
A football coach who once said, "If all I have taught you is how to block and tackle, then I have failed you as a coach."
He was more interested in how the kids turned out.
The story of a coach who saved a town, then lost his life.
To see Ed, lying on the floor, critically shot, is an image that I can't get out of my head.
On today's 700 Club.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Acorn Stairlifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stairlift, the world's leader in stairlifts. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stairlifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Why risk falling when you can safely ride?
Our Acorn Stairlift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stairlift has a padded seat and backrest, safety sensors, stop the chair if there are obstacles. The seat swivels and locks so you don't twist your body. And the Acorn Stairlift folds away. It even works through a power shortage.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call 1-800-505-3513 for free information. That number again is 1-800-505-3513. 1-800-505-3513. Call now.
Tomorrow, from the nation's first permanent settlement, the discovery of a lifetime.
So where we're standing right now, this is where Pocahontas and John Rolfe would have gotten married?
Absolutely, exactly. Plus, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, so we're talking turkey.
Today we're deep frying turkey.
Masterbuilt's John McLemore tells us why we should deep fry our birds. Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
Well, the 3-mile strip of land on the 38th parallel separates North and South Korea, but the countries are separated by much more than that. So one man started a university with an important goal: to bring the two countries together. Here's George Thomas with this amazing story.
This is the DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone, the narrow 150-mile-long, most fortified border on Earth, the dividing line where the two Koreas, still at war for more than 50 years, watch one another across a no-man's land, dotted with mines, walls, and bunkers. On one side is South Korea, a vibrant, open democracy. On the other, the closed, secret hermit kingdom of Kim Jong-il's communist North Korea. But a fledgling university hopes to build a bridge between the two Koreas. It's called the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, North Korea's first private university. The school is backed by the South Korean government and evangelical Christians in both South Korea and the United States. Its goal is to give North Korea's future leaders tools to develop the country's backward economy and promote peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Well, joining us is James Kim. James is the founder of the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. And Dr. Kim, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the 700
Thank
Club.
you for your invitation.
Thank you. You were denounced as a spy a few years ago
Yes.
by North Korea.
Yes.
Now they've asked you to build a university?
Yes.
Why?
Well, when I went to the communist country about 30 years ago in China, first time they asking, who are you? What are you? I always declare, I'm not communist. I'm not capitalist.
Yeah.
I'm lovist. L-O-V-E, lovist.
Lovist.
So anyway, something have the misunderstanding each other, and I helped a lot of relief food and many things to North Korea. They have the great famines going on around, and they misunderstood. This all kind of fund come from the U.S. and the CIA fund, something like that, misunderstanding.
Okay.
So they captured me, they put in me prison, and they declared the death penalty. They asked me to write will. I wrote a will, just simply like that.
What did you say in your will?
If I die, I like to donate my body to the Pyongyang Medical College. Also, they asked me, right, I am actually now for country citizenship. See, as like the God given to the St. Paul given Roman citizenship, he used that, and God gave to me. I say God give to me for country citizenship. One is I am American, American. I am holding American. I am American citizen.
Okay.
Great United States of American citizen.
Okay.
Also, Chinese government gave to me, and the Chinese permanent citizenship.
Of China?
China.
Oh, my.
I built China in the university, China Yanbian University of Science and Technology, 20 years ago. Next year's our university is a 20 years anniversary.
Okay.
Is all our faculties is God's people.
All right.
Jesus' disciple came to the all over world teaching to our Chinese university.
Yeah.
Also, and of course, I am the honorable citizen of the metropolitan Seoul city in South Korea. I am citizen
of Seoul.
Seoul.
All right.
Also, and North Korea. And also they gave to me and North Korea and Pyongyang.
And you're
city.
a citizen of North Korea?
Yes. They gave to me and North Korean honorable citizen. So I have the 4 country citizenship. Anyway, and then when I working in the communist country, and if we demonstrate the God's love, it's God's love is absolute love.
Yeah.
No condition.
Okay.
Also, Chinese government also moved the heart. You are our friends. So they allowed me first international university in China, now our university. And they know we are all Christian.
Okay.
And Chinese government allow us to build chapel. It's the first chapel, the chapel in China, Chinese university, they allowed. We have the chapel in our university. And as like North Korea too.
You'll have a chapel in North Korea?
North Korea just we opened last year.
Okay.
But we are worshiping at the Sunday in the hall. We do not have any separate chapel yet, you know.
And they don't come and restrict you from worshiping God?
No.
No?
If government, even we demonstrate real our Jesus Christ love.
All right.
Any kind of the ism, any kind of government, system.
Okay.
They can understand because Jesus' love, God's love, everyone understand, every moving heart, everyone going to become convert.
Yes.
So,
what will happen to the North Korea? What do you think is going to happen?
well, that's only God knows.
All right.
I cannot judge.
Okay.
You know? Only God knows. But as you see, I like this time, I like to tell to our U.S. citizen, just I had the news, and 90 people arrested for the Wall Street protest. Wall Street protest last evening, you know?
Yeah.
But our fellow citizen, don't worry, you are the happiest country you are living on the earth.
Yes.
You know?
The happiest.
Happiest. And I brought some money.
Yes.
I have the penny in my hand.
All right.
It's not money. Even penny said, in God we trust.
That's right.
You see?
That's right.
You are using our money is in God we trust.
Yes.
This is the mission paper, some sense. When I go to the communist country, always I'm using this money. Shall we learn English? All right. Yes, in God we trust.
So they're using that money to buy things.
It's not merely money. Yeah. So unless we are using in God we trust, our America God will be blessed. It's the glorious country. You should be proud of being United States of American citizen.
Amen. Amen. Well, Doctor, I'm just grateful for what you're doing. Our prayers are with you. How many students do you have at Pyongyang Technological?
Yanbian student, we have 2,500 students.
2,500?
Our campus is 1 million square meters.
Yes.
And Pyongyang, just we start last year, is the graduate school we are doing. We are training the top elite. So now over 300 students we are teaching. And this Pyongyang University of Science and Technology is very different than any other university in the world.
I should think.
And China also, all our faculties, all our students, we living together, we eating together, just like one family.
Yes.
See? So, single of them, before they graduate, they change their life. They change their value of their identity, in some sense. You know?
Okay.
So anyway, God's blessed too much, very much, very much.
Wow.
You know? So anyway, this time also I like to, I came last 2 days ago and last week, and when I see our United States of America, our American citizen, you do not realize how much you blessed, how much God blessed this country and to our citizens of America, you know. And I'm like to say one word, and all of our world, especially communist country world peoples, they do not know American president name, but they know Bill Gates.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
They know, yes.
Everyone knows Bill Gates.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Also, everyone knows Warren Buffett.
Yes.
Yes. And Howard Buffett, he came to our university last year, and he stayed 1 week. You know.
Buffett did for a week.
Howard Buffett. You know.
Yeah. All right.
And so, because why? Everyone respect Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, you know.
Sure.
Because they know they're using American capital money.
Yeah.
They are using with the in God we trust way, you know. So everybody respect because of this kind of they say capitalist, you know, but this kind of people, so respecting things, they respect America too, you know.
Yes, sure.
So, dear, my brothers and sisters, American citizens, you are so much blessed.
Yes.
So I always say, peace comes with the price. You see?
Peace
comes with the price.
All right.
Our salvation comes with the price.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
So I like to tell, peace comes with the price. Everyone would like to have peace. But who must to pay the price? Who going to pay? We, our Christian, God's people, can pay the price.
That's right.
So if we pay the price, everyone will love them, love us, everyone respect us.
All right.
See?
Well, Doctor, the University of Love, that's marvelous. Based on
here I brought the
God we trust. Yes, what's
brochure. This is here's the University of China.
Yeah.
And if you turn up there, this is the University of Pyongyang. And this is our campus, you know, big campus.
It's amazing. All right.
Many people, where the money comes?
Built on a dream.
Yes.
Well, anyhow, well, Doctor.
Many people ask me, where money comes? I say, I have unlimited credit at the Bank of Heaven.
Well, keep drawing down on it. Well, Doctor, I'm afraid our time is up, but thank you. Dr. James Kim, he's head of the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology in North Korea. Amazing. Yeah. Thanks for being here. We'll be back. Terry's got more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, coming up, a town that was leveled by an F5 tornado has to rebuild again after its star football coach is gunned down by a former player.
She could see my body language probably before she saw me that somebody was critically hurt.
It's going 100 miles an hour on all the whys and whats and how, and that you don't have the answers for right then.
We have an exclusive interview with the families from both sides of this tragedy, so don't go away.
Hello? Hey, handsome.
The McCann twins for Consumer Cellular.
Where are you?
On the street.
I got a new cell phone from Consumer Cellular.
They're all the same.
Not true.
They're complicated, but expensive. Long-term contracts, cancellation fees.
My plan is just $10 a month.
$10 a month?
I didn't have to sign a contract. There are no cancellation fees. Yeah, and I even got a free phone.
And when were you going to tell me about this?
Call or go to ConsumerCellularTV.com now for no contract plan starting at $10 a month, a free phone, and a 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee. Shipping is free.
Let's call and get your free phone.
Consumer Cellular is the exclusive wireless provider for AARP members who get special benefits and discounts.
My first call. Hello? Hey, ugly.
Call 1-800-368-6425 or log on to ConsumerCellularTV.com.
Make the cash call and ask for the do-over refi. If you refinanced your mortgage in the last 18 months, we'll redo it at 2.99% rate and APR with no closing costs. Just call 877-890-CASH.
Ed Thomas was a legend. He was a two-time state champion and the National High School Coach of the Year. He was also a mentor to several NFL athletes and a pillar of a small Iowa community. But on June 24th, 2009, Ed Thomas was murdered by one of his former football players. Tim Branson has that story.
In a vast sea of Iowa cornfields sits the small town of Parkersburg. The people here pride themselves on hard work, community, and football. For more than 30 years, Aplington Parkersburg, or AP, has been a dominant force in high school football. 19 times they made the Iowa State playoffs, twice bringing home the title. In fact, 4 of the Falcons' best now play in the NFL.
It wasn't always like it is today. Over 30 years ago, the school struggled even to win one game. But that changed in 1975 when one young, passionate coach moved to Parkersburg. He changed a team, a school, and a community.
His name was Ed Thomas. Every kid who tried out made the team, regardless of talent. But Coach Thomas demanded hard work and integrity from his players and himself. He even expected his football field to be the best. He spent countless hours caring for the field that at one point was dubbed the Sacred Acre.
The Sacred Acre. Now, from a wife's perspective,
yes,
what was this legendary obsession he had with the football field?
He loved having that field look as good as it could look. He wanted us to have the best. Now, our yard didn't always look so hot, but But the field looked good always.
But Ed Thomas's #1 priority was not building a successful football program.
But Ed did not really measure success by wins versus losses, did he?
Not at all. He was more interested in how the kids turned out. Now, don't get me wrong, Ed loved to win. Believe me, I lived with the guy, and it wasn't fun when he lost, really, but that wasn't his ultimate goal.
Ed's coaching philosophy stemmed from his deep-rooted Christian faith. His sons, Aaron and Todd, both played for their dad and now help coach the AP football team.
He just led by example so much. You know, he never asked anybody to do anything that he wasn't going to do or hadn't done. And I think that's where the respect factor came in, and kids always knew he cared.
In many respects, football brought this small community together. That unified spirit was never more apparent than when an F5 tornado ripped through Parkersburg in June of 2008. Much of the town was destroyed, including the high school and the football field.
I mean, some people had nothing but the clothes on their back. So, you know, there's just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questioning on, you know, what do we do now? Where do we even start?
As the town started picking up the pieces, Ed came up with the idea of repairing the football field in time for the first home game 3 months away. As the players and townspeople rebuilt their homes and lives, they also worked through the summer getting the field ready. On August 28, 2008, the AP Falcons walked onto the field as scheduled. They won 53-20.
Having people be able to come to the football field and watch a game on a Friday night, it was just that sense of normalcy was kind of back in town.
The Falcons went on to another winning season as the town continued to rebuild. A year after the tornado, it seemed that Parkersburg was finally getting back to normal, until June 24th, 2009.
Butler County 911.
Somebody shot Coach Thomas. We don't know who he is.
Shot him?
Yeah, shot him.
A gunman had walked into the school's makeshift weight room during morning workouts and shot Coach Thomas 7 times at point-blank range. Ed's wife, Jan, who's also an EMT, responded to the call, not realizing it was her husband. Chris Luring, who was chief of police at the time, stopped her from going in.
I had a hard time slowing Jan down because she knew somebody was hurt. She could see my body language probably before she saw me that somebody was critically hurt.
Jan rode with Chris to the hospital. Her mind was spinning.
You know, so, yeah, lots of things going through your head, and you're trying to keep your bearings, but yet it's going 100 miles an hour on all the whys and whats and how, and that you don't have the answers for right then.
Ed died shortly after arriving at the hospital. The family and community were stunned. Then came another shock. The trigger man was one of Parkersburg's own, Mark Becker. Like his dad and 2 brothers, Mark played for Coach Thomas. Their families went to the same church. By all accounts, Mark had the utmost respect for Ed.
I remember one game, you know, Coach said Mark had a really good game, and as we were walking off the field, he says, he's going to be a good one, Dave. He's going to be a good one. And that's all I really thought I really liked to hang on to.
But off the field, Mark was getting into trouble. Even then, Coach never cut him from the team.
When he said, you know, Mark Becker needs AP football more than AP football needs Mark Becker, and he's 100% right.
I was trying to get my head around why would he do that, you know. As far as I knew, he and Ed were always on good terms, and I just couldn't get my head around that at all.
It just didn't make sense.
It did not make sense to me, no.
Mark later testified he heard voices telling him to kill Coach Thomas. He had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia after finishing high school. His parents, Dave and Joan, struggled constantly to find proper care and medication for their son.
No one knows the depths of what Dave and I went through to try and get our son help, or even what Mark tried to do to get himself help.
After Ed's death, the Beckers feared backlash from the community, until the Thomas family made their statement to the media.
We also want to make sure we express our concern and our compassion for the Becker family. We ask that people pray for them as well, and that people take time to comfort and be with them through this, as they are also going through a lot.
Is that something really that came from within you, or was it just the right thing to do?
I felt immediately that I would not want to be in their shoes either. I mean, Dave and Joan had the utmost respect and love for Ed too. They lost Ed, and then it happened to be at the hands of Mark, and I can't imagine what they were going through. So I think if we were going to make a public statement especially, we needed to say that. And it is the right thing to do too, plain and simple.
Dave and Joan say the grace that the Thomas family extended made it possible for their family to stay in the community and go on with their lives.
To see their family reach out to our family publicly that way, it allowed me to be able to sleep at night.
It just overwhelmed you, the outreach.
But the road to healing winds on for both families. Mark is serving a life sentence, and while the Thomases feel justice was served, they admit it's hard to let go.
Have you been able to forgive Mark? Or do you even think that you have to, or?
No, I do think I have to, and I don't know what I feel about Mark. I know I need to forgive him, and I'm trying very hard to. He hurt my family greatly, but at the same time, I know I need to make that decision, and I'm working hard.
Life and football go on in Parkersburg. Jan still cheers the team on while Aaron and Todd are on the sidelines, helping out AP's new head coach. The family also released a book recently called The Sacred Acre, the Ed Thomas story.
If Ed were given that moment before he died to give a parting word, what do you think he would have said?
He was in there with 22 high school kids, and he probably would have said, always remember to do the right thing, because he told them that day in and day out, and you know what the right thing is to do. Choose to follow God.
And it's faith in God that carries the family through.
Get up in there. No matter what he was doing, if it was with Aaron and I, or Mom, or the football team, that whatever he did that day, he was going to do to glorify Christ.
Is it hard for us here on earth? Absolutely. But I also have the promise of knowing we'll be reunited someday for eternity.
God can take our tragedies and turn them into triumphs, and I think with Ed Thomas, that's what's looking at. It looks like a terrible tragedy, but somehow his memory and those who loved him go on, and I think triumph is going to come, especially out of that forgiveness of the family of the person who killed him.
Well, that community has just been called to a level of growth and understanding and surrender that few communities will ever know. But it is a story. It's a story about loss, but more significantly about faith, about grace, about forgiveness. And if you'd like to know more about the life and legacy of Coach Ed Thomas, you need to read this book, The Sacred Acre. This is available in stores nationwide. It's an inspiring story of one man and then a lot of people in his shadow making a difference. Well, coming up later, we've got time for your questions from our chat room. Erica says, my mom had back surgery. I laid my hand on her back, and a few seconds later, her pain was gone. Does this mean I have the gift of healing? We're going to bring it on with that question and more later on today's 700 Club.
Something inside of me just told me I need to get checked out. The doctor said we found something and we need to get into surgery.
Beth Gomez had stage 3 colon cancer.
That's when we scheduled an appointment for a second opinion at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
To find out more about treatment options for complex and late-stage cancer, go to cancercenter.com. You'll be able to see our treatment results for many types of cancers and how they compare to national averages. You can also check for participating insurance plans. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, every resource, every one of us, everything we do every day is focused on you, our patient, your treatment, your healing, your survival.
You had a whole team. I wasn't just going to fight this battle. They were going to stand beside me and fight it.
Our physicians, clinicians, and nurses are highly experienced and dedicated. We use state-of-the-art technology and give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer makes you really appreciate what's important in your life.
Please call or go to cancercenter.com today. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Who's the holiday staple that looks best on any table?
Yeah.
Bruce's Yams. This ain't no ordinary side dish, baby. Stuffing, get stuffed. Dinner rolls better slow their roll. Potatoes, you think I wouldn't recognize you under all that gravy. Bruce's Yams are the strongest, healthiest, and tastiest veggie to ever cross a jive turkey. And I got the street creds to prove it. So let's have a sweet holiday, dig? Bruce's Yams, yam right.
Welcome to Washington for this CBN News Break. The chances of a recession in the United States are now above 50%, according to research from the San Francisco Federal Reserve. One reason is the European debt crisis. Reuters reports the San Francisco Fed says the chance of recession will drop off after the second half of next year. A group of pro-life nurses accuses a New Jersey hospital of forcing them to assist with abortions. The 12 nurses filed the suit against the University of Medicine and Dentistry Hospital in Newark in October. The women claim the hospital required them to undergo training that involved assisting in abortions or face termination. They argue they are still being forced to assist with abortions despite the lawsuit and a temporary injunction. The lawsuit asks the court to block the school from forcing personnel to assist in health services related to abortion. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
Attention those on Medicare with diabetes. You may be eligible for an upgraded meter.
If you're tired of stabbing your fingertips to test your blood glucose, we have news that could change your life. If you're on Medicare with diabetes, then you need to know there's an alternative method for checking your blood glucose every day. You don't need to stab your fingertips anymore. The Embrace meter from Diabetes Care Club is easier to use and nearly painless. And the best news is that Diabetes Care Club would love to send you one of these meters. This method hurts less, and because you can see and hear your results, it may be easier to understand.
Your blood glucose reading is 89.
Call now to find out why. Nearly 250,000 patients have joined Diabetes Care Club. Membership is free, so is the call.
Call 1-800-445-3014.
Talk to Diabetes Care Club. You'll be glad you did.
Imagine purchasing gold and silver from a volume dealer at 0% above dealer cost. Discount Gold Brokers is making your dream a reality. Zero commissions, fees, or expenses. 0% above dealer cost. Live traders are standing by right now to take your order. No minimum. 888-200-9001. Why pay more than zero above dealer cost on bullion purchases? 888-200-9001. Ask about our IRA programs. 888-200-9001 now.
Well, for years, Richard Adderholt's only home was a tent in the woods. But now, thanks to Operation Blessing, he has a home, a job, and 3 meals a day.
Richard Adderholt spent more than a decade living on the streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He showed us around a levee where he sometimes slept, and then walked us down the railroad tracks and through a tangle of brush.
All right, that's where about 4 of us used to stay at a time. And it's kind of growed up on us. It does bring back some old memories, though.
I'll bet it does. And so you were living out here?
Yeah, I lived in a tent. I can't believe I was out here. Really can't, because I wasn't brought up this way.
Richard says since he lost his arm in a motorcycle accident, he got enough money from Social Security to rent an apartment.
It was that and my alcohol and drugs, and I chose my alcohol and drugs.
Then a little more than a year ago, people he called red shirts started coming by every week with breakfast.
When they came up, we had to hide our beer because, see, when I got up, I was drinking at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when I'd start.
The red shirts were volunteers from the Baton Rouge Dream Center, and they delivered food provided by Operation Blessing. They offer food to single moms and widows, neighborhood youth, and the homeless. Pastor Craig Boutte says most of their outreaches start with feeding people.
We're really just looking for an opportunity to be the hands and the feet of Jesus. And in most cases, it's going to lead off with some sort of resource that came from Operation Blessing.
Richard says every time they came out to his camp, the volunteers asked if he wanted to go to church.
I knew I could smell myself. So I know they could smell me, and I wasn't about to go into a church where everybody be doing, like that toward me. So I never went.
But the team brought breakfast every week for the next 9 months.
They're very persistent.
Eventually, Richard got off of alcohol and drugs, started going to church, and even went through a church leadership program.
And now I'm one of the red shirts. I think that's pretty cool. I really do.
Today, he manages the church's home for former inmates and is one of the hardest working guys in the ministry.
When I got out of here, I was so deep in a hole. There wasn't no way I could get out by myself, so I had to be God help me get out of here.
And in Richard's life and many others, the transformation began with food from Operation Blessing and the Dream Center.
Man, all I can say, y'all are great. Thank you all very much for helping.
Richard had a need and God sent you. If you're a 700 Club member, you allow us to come alongside of folks like the people who run the Dream Center and say, let us help you make a difference. That's happening not just here in the United States, but literally around the world. And that's why today we ask you to stand with us, help us make that kind of a difference in the lives of people who just need someone to believe in them, who just need someone to reach out and put an arm around them and say, you can do this. God's got a plan for your life. To join the 700 Club is 65 cents a day, $20 a month. That makes you a 700 Club member and a part of an army of people who are reaching out to love the world in the name of Jesus. Call now, join with us, 1-800-759-0700. It's on your screen, even our number's toll free. So we ask you to call and become a 700 Club member. When you do, we want to send you as our way of saying thank you for caring about others. Signs of the Times. This is the latest teaching that Pat and Gordon have done about prophecy, biblical prophecy, the day that we live in. What does it all mean? So you'll get a hold of this and you'll have the privilege and the satisfaction of knowing you're changing lives. Well, we've got a few minutes left. We want to take some of the questions that have been submitted into our chat room.
All right.
This is Erica Pat, who says, my mom recently had back surgery, and when she was in pain, I laid my hand on her back. Immediately, I could feel my body heat up to the point where I was sweating. A few seconds later, my mom's pain went away. Does this mean I have the gift of healing?
Erica, dear, every Christian who is filled with the Holy Spirit has the ability, and these signs shall follow those that believe. In my name they shall. And that's normal Christianity. Does that mean that you have a resident gift to heal? No, but it means that the Holy Spirit is in you, and the Holy Spirit works through you, and you had a special love for your mother, and the Lord healed her. But does that mean others can be healed? Absolutely. You pray for others, and you'll find the same thing happening. Mm-hmm. But it's the power of God in us, and this is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christians need to understand what their privileges are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Minerva, who says, in the book of Mark, after Jesus had healed the sick, why did he instruct the people not to tell anyone what he had done?
Well, he didn't want them chasing after him for the wrong reason. You know, there were those that wanted him to do miracles and give him bread. And, you know, we saw Moses fed the people in the wilderness. What are you going to do? How about, you know, cooking up some bread for us? And he didn't want to be mobbed by crowds before he got his message out. And if too much of that had circulated, he wouldn't have been able to move. So he was on the way to Jerusalem. He said he didn't write that a prophet perish outside of Jerusalem. So he was on the way to Jerusalem, and he knew he had to die, and he knew he had to be crucified, and he knew he had to pay the price for the sins of the world. So he didn't want things to stand in the way of that. But what other reasons he had, I'm not sure, but he may have had many others.
Okay, this is Kylie, who says, I've heard that the United States owes money everywhere. If the United States goes bankrupt, what will happen?
There will be absolute chaos. Right now, we're the strongest economy, stronger by far than China, stronger than any of the others. But nevertheless, the reckless spending of our government in the last decade has put us in a position where nobody can bail us out. There's nobody big enough to bail out America. And if the leftists would take their feet off the throat of American industry, we could grow our way out of this thing. But we are being restrained on every side by rules and regulations which are hampering us from doing what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So what will happen? people will be able to work. There'll be bread lines. There'll be riot in the streets. This Occupy Wall Street will be commonplace. Cities will be filled with trash. Trash won't be picked up. The schools will close down. There won't be the police and fire because there won't be enough money to pay them. You can go down the list. I mean, we can revert into a chaotic situation. We don't want that to happen. Right now, we're the greatest nation on earth. Please, let's not destroy it. All right?
This is Monique who asks, do you always have to get on your knees to pray before going to bed? And can you pray in silence?
Of course you can. No, you don't have to. People kneel down because it's a act of submission to the Lord. But God doesn't care where your physical body is. It's your spirit He's concerned about. You know, I can pray sitting, I can pray standing, I can, whatever. And so, they're it's reverence to God, and it's your spirit talking to Him. All right.
This is Bob who asks, I heard that if we confess our sins, God will forgive and forget them. But I also heard that God is all-knowing. How can God be all-knowing if He forgets our sins?
Well, He can do something we can't do. He can, as we use the term, the sea of God's forgetfulness. He can extinguish the memory of the sins you've committed, and as if you've never sinned. So He's all-knowing, but He can also say, well, that part of my knowledge I want to do away with. I want to extinguish it.
This is Kate who asks, I am a Christian and my husband left me for another woman. Now he wants to come back home. But I'm heartbroken and I don't know if I can trust him again. Will I be disobeying God if I tell my husband I want a divorce?
It's up to you to decide on that. You let the Holy Spirit lead you. He has broken the vows. He's gone off with another woman. He obviously was unfaithful to you. And that, as I understand, is a cause for divorce under the biblical mandate. God is a God of reconciliation. Forgiveness is important. You need to have forgiveness in your heart. But what you do beyond that, whether your husband is a serial adulterer or whether this was a one-time deal and he'll come back and be faithful, I don't know him, and you have to make that determination. You ask the Lord. But the most important thing is, have your heart pure and have forgiveness in your heart for whatever has been done to you. I mean, otherwise you'll be destroyed regardless of what you do with the divorce.
Okay, we've got one last quick question. One of our viewers says, I'm in the process of searching for a new church and I'm not sure where I should tithe. Should I still tithe to my old church or set my tithe aside for the new church that God leads me to?
Well, whatever feels good to you will be.
I guess it depends on whether you've got an issue that's causing you to leave.
I tell you what, one of the things that you noticed when Abraham gave tithes to Melchizedek blessed him. And so the old thought was you give tithes to where you're blessed. So I don't know where that blessing is, but that's what you ought to consider, is where are you being blessed? And then beyond that, see what the Lord shows you. Well,
that's all the time we have for today.
That's all the time we have for today's show. A major discovery. Find out how it will affirm our Christian heritage. And we leave you with these words from Matthew chapter 7. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on a solid rock. Thank you so much. Remember, our telephones are available 24 hours a day, and we'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Here at CBN, we see incredible things happen when we stand together.
That's why we want to thank the thousands of you who recently pledged to join the 700 Club.
Your monthly gift makes it possible to bring crucial help to people who need it most.
Each day, you have a part in healing the sick, feeding the hungry, and broadcasting the gospel across America and around the world.
You've brought hope and help to those in desperate need.
And changed their lives forever.
Just like you did for Yasana. He lived in a slum, breaking rocks for $2 a day. That's when you sent him goats to raise, providing his family a better income. And you gave his grandchildren school supplies, changing the future for Yasana and his family.
So please watch for this mailing and send in your pledge.
This year, millions will experience the love and saving power of Jesus Christ.
Only because you were there.